Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Shalom. I'm David Mencer, Israeli government spokesman for the National Public Diplomacy Directorate in the Office of the Prime Minister. This Wednesday, the 18th of December, day 439 of the October 7th war. I'm just going to share with you a very quick update and then we'll get straight to your questions. Firstly, on the tragic fallen amongst Israel's armed forces, it is with regret that I share that the number of fallen soldiers has risen to 818. Major in the reserves Moshiko Maxim Rosenwald was 35 years old, and Sergeant First Class in the reserves Alexander Anozov was 26 years old. Both these men fell in battle defending Israel in southern Gaza, and both men were from Modi'in, Maccabim, Re'ut. There are no words of mine that can assuage the pain of their parents, their families, and their communities. We embrace them, their dear families who have lost their precious heroes, sons and daughters, in this war for our existence. The price of war is heavy and it's painful, and each casualty is a world unto itself. May their memories be a blessing forever. Next to Syria, the Prime Minister yesterday visited the summit of Mount Hermon. He was briefed there on the fast-changing situation in Syria by the leaders of our armed forces. The IDF is currently addressing the necessary deployment there until a suitable arrangement is made that ensures Israel's security. Next to Lebanon, yesterday a Hezbollah terrorist was identified loading a vehicle with weapons in southern Lebanon. As we have stated, this is in violation of the ceasefire agreement between Israel and Lebanon. Our Air Force eliminated that threat. As we've said before, fire will be met by fire and peace will be met
Israel's
by peace.
force
Israel remains deployed in southern Lebanon and will act against the threats to our security. We want this ceasefire agreement to endure, but the difference now is we are enforcing this ceasefire agreement. Next to Kogat and the aid going into Gaza, our humanitarian aid efforts are persistent and continuous. The latest figures we have over the last 24 hours are that 200 humanitarian aid trucks went into Gaza, 67 via the Erez crossing to northern Gaza, 133 via the Kerem Shalom crossing, but only 63 trucks were collected from the Gazan side of Kerem Shalom by international organizations. That means that there are still 750 trucks worth of aid waiting for collection. So when you hear about complaints about not enough aid getting to Gazans, there are still 750 trucks worth of aid awaiting collection on the Gazan side of Kerem Shalom. They've been through security and they're ready to be distributed and they're waiting there. A convoy of 65 aid trucks entered Gaza via Route 96 yesterday. 4 gas tankers went in for infrastructure. 2 fuel tankers went into northern Gaza on Monday. 9 ambulances went into Gaza through Kerem Shalom. We, of course, want to ensure the continued provision of medical care to Gazans, but also facilitate patient transfer to hospitals in Gaza. Since the start of this war, we have facilitated the entry of over 130 ambulances. These have been donated by many countries and organizations. And to give you the global figure now, since the start of this war, more than 1,200,000 tons of food and aid on over 60,000 trucks have entered into Gaza. Let me give you that figure again. Since the start of this war, more than 1,200,000 tons of aid and food on over 60,000 trucks have entered Gaza. So that's the end of our briefing here today. I'll now happily take your questions. Please put your questions in the chat of this Zoom and we'll deal with each one individually. Please remember to add your news outlet. Okay, first question I can see here is from Joel Pollack at Breitbart News. Firstly, would Israel consider holding onto the peak of Mount Hermon giving its strategic importance? Thank you for that question, Joel. I shared with you the comments made by the Prime Minister on after his visit at the peak of Mount Hermon. The Prime Minister said, and I shared those comments with you today, and you can get them from the Prime Minister's website. He said that that point is of great importance, great strategic importance, because not only from that highest peak in this region, you can see over all of northern Israel, but you can also see over Syria as well. And I've given you the Prime Minister's comments then. I've got nothing more to add on that. Number two, from Joel Pollack at Breitbart News, would Israel consider annexing Druze areas of Syria? Thank you for that question, Joel. We've got nothing to add on those areas. I would just tell you, as many of you may have seen in the news, lots of the Druze residents close to our border inside Syria are asking for precisely that, but I haven't got anything more to add on that. Also, just to say, on the Golan, which is Israeli sovereign territory recognized by the US, we hope other countries also follow that suit. You know, the Golan is an example where people actually live in peace. Druze, Jews, Christians, all living in peace on the Golan. The Prime Minister's called for more Israelis to move to the Golan because it is such an important strategic point which protects this country. As I say, whoever controls the Golan actually has vantage and control of the whole of northern Israel, which is why it is so important that it remains a sovereign part of Israel. The next question here is also from Joel Pollack. What can Israel do to protect the Kurds in Syria from being harmed by Turkey? Thank you for that question. Look, when it comes to the Kurds, our foreign minister made some comments about the importance of respecting the rights of the Kurds. He made those just a couple of days ago. But also, in the last day or so, our foreign minister has also said that that Turkey has been systematically encroaching on Syrian territory. 15% of Syria is controlled by Turkey. It's a process that began with a military operation in 2016, in 18, in 2019, and it continues to this very day. The foreign minister has said that Turkey has established proxy zones where armed groups such as the Syrian National Army operate under its control. As I said, 15% of Syria's territory is under the control of Turkish-backed forces. This is a point which is almost never made in international media. They focus instead on Israel taking control of some of the buffer zone between Turkey and Israel to defend ourselves, to ensure that jihadis and any of jihadi radical forces are not on our border to perform another October the 7th massacre. But they almost never, international media, have seen very little coverage of the Turkish-backed forces which control 15% of Syria. So, and in these areas, you know, it's not just military control. You know, our foreign minister has made clear that Turkish currency is being used. There are Turkish bank branches, and postal service has been operating. So, you know, the Turkish media the Turkish military rather, is bombarding the infrastructure in northeastern autonomous region of Syria, and they're using aircraft and UAVs. So look, Turkey supports these jihadi forces that operate against the Kurds in Syria. So the last country really that can speak about the occupation in Syria is actually Turkey, with 15% of Syria's territory under the control of its proxies, operating under Turkish patronage. And there is certainly, as our foreign minister has made clear, no justification for the continued Turkish aggression and violence against the Kurds in Syria. I think that answers that question comprehensively. Next question, number 4. Would Israel insist on all the hostages being released at once rather than a deal in stages? Thank you for that question, Joel. Let me read your question again. Would Israel insist on all hostages being released at once rather than a deal in stages? Look, I think the less said the better about the hostage negotiations which are happening right now. But of course, it's a no-brainer that we'd like all the hostages to be released right now at once. We've said very, very clearly that all the hostages back, released, 100 of them, dozens of them alive, many of them killed already by Hamas, and Hamas surrendering would end this war instantly. We've made that crystal clear. But of course, we'd like them all to be back right now, immediately, in one deal. But look, with God's help, we are acting relentlessly to get them all home, all of them, the living and the murdered. But I think it's correct that the less we discuss this, the better. Now is the time for actions. It's not time for words. In the past, there's been a lot of hot air spoken about our hostages, perhaps too many words and not enough action have been spoken. We, from Israel's point of view, we are focused. We are working with everything we have to get them out of hell, and they are in hell right now. So look, from me and from this podium, no more words are needed. Words will follow, and there will be plenty of them once our people are released from hell and given back to their families and to this country. It's an open wound in this country, and all of us are desperate to get our people home safely. Next question, also from Joel Pollack at Breitbart News. Question number 5. After Ireland's anti-Israel moves, Foreign Minister Saar said that the president of Ireland was always an anti-Semite. How can you repair the relationship after that? Thank you for that question, Joel. It is not for Israel to repair this relationship. It is for Ireland. The Irish are the offenders in this scenario. So it's not for Israel to repair this. You know, when it comes to anti-Semitism, we are the victims of anti-Semitism. We are not the perpetrators of anti-Semitism. There's nothing that Israel does that promotes anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is a sickness. It is Jew hatred. It is the oldest hatred. We have been faced. Anti-Semitism is, as the former Chief Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs very wisely said, he said it was the oldest hatred in the world. There's nothing that we do that promotes it or it can ameliorate it. Absolutely not. It is Jew hatred. So when it comes to Ireland, our Foreign Minister Saar, exactly as you have said, has instructed the closure of Israel's embassy in Ireland. The actions taken by Ireland, double standards, anti-Semitic rhetoric of the Irish government against Israel, they're rooted in efforts to delegitimize and demonize the only Jewish state in the world, and the Irish government also recognized a Palestinian state during the attacks on Israel. Who praised that recognition? Hamas, a terrorist organization. So Ireland have attempted to redefine genocide, the actual word genocide, in international law, so it supports the baseless claims made by Israel at the ICJ, made against Israel in the ICJ, and they've backed politically motivated cases at the ICC, and they've promoted anti-Israel measures within the EU, and they've fostered hostility towards Israel. And also, of course, Ireland is one of the few European countries that has not adopted the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism. Its government have failed to take effective measures to combat the surge in anti-Semitism within Ireland. I heard Israel's ambassador to Ireland talking about threats to her personal safety, which were not taken seriously at all, which is the duty of the host country for any embassy that is within their country. But Israel, from our point of view, I'll tell you what we're doing. We are focusing our resources on strengthening bilateral relations with other countries worldwide, according to the priorities, which also take into account the attitudes and actions of these states towards Israel. So there's nothing that Israel can do, it's up to Ireland. Can I just add on this that Ireland was a country which signed the condolence book for Adolf Hitler when Hitler killed himself in 1945. What an appalling legacy. Okay, next question. Economist number 6, Jeffrey Sachs, told the US media personality Tucker Carlson that the fall of Assad was a part of a 30-year plan by Netanyahu, whom he blamed for the war in the Middle East. Can you respond? Yeah, so that's an age-old anti-Semitic trope that Israel is, of course, behind all the wars in the region and in the world, exactly. You know, what utter nonsense. Perhaps I can educate Mr. Sachs when I tell him what our assessment is rather than his erroneous assessment that he spreads across international media and anyone that will hear him. Look, our Prime Minister said that after October 7th massacre, the attack on Israel, it would actually change the face of the Middle East. And he has proved to be correct. Syria is not the same Syria. Bashar al-Assad has fled. He killed 500,000 of his own people. His regime is in tatters. What about Lebanon? Also not the same. Hezbollah has been massively degraded. They've been set back decades. Nasrallah and its leadership obliterated. And what about Gaza? Gaza, it was also not the same Gaza. Hamas close to being defeated. Sinwar eliminated. We've shattered the Hamas battalions. The Prime Minister's talked about 20,000 terrorists killed and taken off the battlefield. Mohammed Daif gone. All the senior Hamas officials gone, eliminated. And also the head of the axis of Iran itself. Iran is not the same Iran. Major parts of Iran's air defense system have been destroyed, and their missile manufacturing capabilities massively degraded. We've demolished a significant component of their nuclear program. We've done this not only for us here in Israel, but they've done this for the safety and the peace of the world. And I would add, it's about time the world appreciated the fact that we here in Israel, together with our allies, are standing up to Iran. Iran say that they want to develop a nuclear program. They want to defeat us, but only as a stopgap to the West. We've exposed them. We've pushed them back. So I think that's a better analysis of what's going on at the moment rather than this erroneous fixation on Netanyahu of our Prime Minister. Okay, that's the last question we have here today. Thank you for joining us. We'll have another briefing tomorrow. In the meantime, please do stay safe. You can reach us in the usual way for questions or for interviews. But in the meantime, please do stay safe. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.